so glad you're here. We have obviously a full house. We have some teachers and parents and who wear multiple hats in the house today to tell us in the real world what's it like teaching online as teachers and what's going on with our kids. I am super excited to have some of the staff of Chapin Elementary from South Carolina with us today. And if you're new to us, I'm Dr. Marty Ginsburg from Reading Simplified, and it's our mission to streamline reading instruction and accelerate students' reading achievement. And we're going to hear about how these teachers are implementing some sort of instruction during these remote teaching days. So I'm excited to have them. And I'm going to let Dr. Tara Thompson introduce her colleagues and friends. She is one that reached out to me about how she was teaching reading, and she's been implementing a lot of these Reading Simplified activities and ideas. So I'm excited to be a new collaborator with her, and she's brought on some of her colleagues, like I said. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Tara. Thank you so much for being here. Do you mind first introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about what you do?
Sure. My name is Tara Thompson, and I'm currently the reading coach at Chapin Elementary School with these fabulous ladies. And in about my 23rd year of teaching, I'm early childhood certified, and I have taught kindergarten all the way through 2nd grade as classroom teacher. And then for about 8 years, I served in a reading intervention role. And then this is probably my 6th or 7th year as a reading coach. I would like to introduce my friends that are here with me today. And Angie Bradley is a 1st grade teacher. And Brooke Bridges is a kindergarten teacher. She's also a parent of a student in Angie Bradley's 1st grade room. And Karina McCullum is our one of our special ed teachers at our school. And she is here to share the parent perspective. Her daughter Kelsey is in 2nd grade at our school.
Awesome. Thank you so much for introducing your team here. And how about what's going on at your school in terms of what are the possibilities and what are the restrictions that you're under if you're trying to reach your students during school closures? Just kind of give us the big picture.
Well, big picture is we are trying to have ongoing communication with all of our students, and our teams are working together, and each team is creating their plans for how they're carrying out their lessons. And so I can let the teachers kind of give a quick overview for the kinds of things that they're doing. As coach, I continually collaborate, and I'm collaborating with the ladies and the teams. And so I'll just pass it over to them. I do Facebook Live events, and some of their children come and watch, and the teachers watch as well. And then we collaborate and have professional conversations around Marnie's 3 activities mostly, and how we can really get a bigger bang for our buck with instruction online. So Angie or Brooke?
Well, I am also doing the Facebook Live. I believe Brooke was the first to kind of bite that off, so I followed in her footsteps, and then Tara, I think, also was doing it about the same time. And I tried to just do things that were transferable that I was already doing in the classroom that the kids would already know about. And so I started off with just a little share, and I've had kids write in about things that they miss during the time. And so I start off by just drawing one of those out, just so they can have kind of like a morning meeting type of a share, and we get to experience together what we each miss right now. And then
so Andrew, let me interrupt. Are you using Zoom or what's your
right, the Facebook Live.
Okay, Facebook Live also.
Yeah.
So you're seeing their comments live.
Yes, right. And they've already sent in things that I've put into a jar, and so then we draw out. And then I have a little bit of interactive word work and like a read aloud. And I tell them beforehand, get your paper and pencil, or get the things that you'll need. And so I've been doing that about 2 or 3 days a week.
Wow, that's awesome. And what level of participation do you think you're getting in terms of what percentage of your class is engaging and connecting with you?
I have about 3/4 of the parents that are on Facebook, but when I go live, there's maybe between 5 and about 8 kids that are on there. And I think some go back to look at it and to watch the videos. And that's the great part about it, is that if you do miss out, you can go back and take the time.
Love it.
I was going to say there's about over 120 members in the Facebook group that I've got for our students. And that's the one thing, even though we only might have 8 to 10 students watching live, you know, there's on average in the 70s, by the end of the day, at least 70 people have gone in and watched, and they're getting great feedback, which they'll share.
Yeah, and before Brooke and Karina share, I just want to give a sneak peek to what Tara is talking about. Let me share my screen, okay, and show some pictures of her, some of the things she's doing in her classroom. Tara, do you want to explain a little bit about these two things?
Yeah. So sure. So looking at the picture that's on my left, it looks like a baking pan with our letters. That's our setup. So usually the evening before, I will take a picture of the letters that our students need to have available to participate in the Switch It that's planned for the next day. And underneath that, there's also, oh, that was a big day. I got a lot, probably squeezed too much in, but I also did a combination of the sort it, write it that you do. And so using the key sentence you can see in the middle there, it's kind of small. So I'm not sure which one, if that's long O or if that was the long E, or yeah, I think it's long E. And so there's like a little sorting board ready. And the sound box is a blank sound box sheet, which the parents can actually download that from a PDF. Brooke taught me a lot about how to do Facebook Live. She's been our leader who's really helped us, you know, step out there and try these things. So those files are on our group page for parents to download and print. So also on the right, you'll see some pictures of some books. Always a read aloud. Every day it starts with a read aloud, and we integrate the word work into it using some of the Switch It, the read it, the write it, and also trying to squeeze in blend as you read too. So just depending on where our kids are.
Awesome. Okay, so that was just a little sneak peek. We're going to show a video of what Tara's doing in her Facebook group too, and some other images that are coming up. But Brooke, I think you are on tap next. What would you like to share with us?
You know, like you said, it's such a journey and learning as we go. So the first thing that I did for the kids was, you know, we were communicating through email, and I got a Facebook group started because that was private. And we could invite grandparents, people that might be watching kids and things into that. So I have a lot of family members that have joined into that as well. So no matter where the kids are, they could join. And we did start with lots of Facebook Lives. I think I was going live 3-4 times a day at the beginning.
Oh my.
Yeah. And it's exhausting myself, you know, but, you know, living the journey, but it's the relationship piece that I was so seeking with my kids, you know, the little ones, especially. Like, I wanted them to know, like, I'm still here. You know, I love you. I'm here. You know, we're all in this together. And the parents were so stressed out at first, getting these packets and not sure what to do. What am I going to do here? So it was like we just front loaded. And then after those first 2 weeks, we really kind of got ourselves together. So now I go live twice a day. And what started to happen in that, it probably is more my age group, as their use of technology, they were getting very frustrated and disengaged because they needed someone there to type comments for them. They weren't able to yet do that on their own, and their parents were working on that. And lots of parents need, and as one who's working on 3 5th grade, 1st grade, 4K work, you know, sometimes you just want to sit your kid down, you want to walk away. And so that was happening, and the kids very quickly, you know, at first they thought I could hear them. And so they were super engaged. But now that they've discovered they can't, we've kind of switched to where we still communicate daily with writing that we're doing, reading that we're doing, science things we find. I give challenges out. I get on and do read alouds. I got on and did a game today. So we still use those Facebook Lives, but I'm Zooming in the morning and at night. And I've learned how to, like you were being able to go back and show the pictures and things. So now we, like Angie said, we have that community time that we just share and we build. I'm getting 95% of kids. This morning I was missing just one in the Zoom. It's something the kids look forward to. And like I was Tara, as our coach, was really helping me too. Like, you know, the less is more, and with switch it and read it and write it, it's helping me get really focused, because I think I was feeling such pressure to do so much too, and it's just not feasible. And the kids couldn't get there so many times a day. They were getting upset if they missed it. So now we have predictable times. I go live about 8:45 or 9, and then they switch to Miss Thompson, who comes on at about 9:30. We come back on. I have a parent Zoom from 7 to 7:30 for any clarifying questions, just wonderings that they may have. The kids come on at 7:30, and we do some kind of themed scavenger hunt. It's like become our thing. We did it one night, and now they want to do it every night. So we're just kind of playing and doing different things. We end with a story before the kids go off that night. But now that our journey has progressed, we're going to continue to do our 2 times a day Zoom. But I'm actually going to have my first one-on-one conferences where we're going to play Switch It and have some guided reading one-on-one next week.
I love it.
Is where my journey has led me. But I'm just aching for the kids to know, like, I'm here and you're still learning, and for parents to know, like, that we don't expect them to be teachers. And it is a great outpouring of respect for the education community at this point in time.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
awesome. So why? What are the different reasons you might choose Zoom versus Facebook Live and the Facebook group?
The group is wonderful, and we can post to it any time of day. I had a kid post today because they lost a tooth. A kid learned how to ride a bike. They had a challenge. We started some Write It together, and they were to finish and illustrate. So as they did that, they took pictures and held it up, and I could give writers compliments to them. And then it's kind of a diary of our journey every day, which I love.
Okay.
Facebook Live, what I do now is, like, I do my read alouds and things for that, because like Tara and I were talking, and we can kind of predict what kids are going to say and do at this point. So I can pretend like I have an audience, and they can go back and watch that on their own time.
Right.
And so I still do that, and then it's right there on that feed as well. The Zoom just gives me that immediate interaction with them. So I really am using a combination of all three. And though now I'm using more in the game, I'm still not as overwhelmed as I was when it started. I think I'm much more focused with my topics, and knowing that, like you said, I mean, the reading piece is setting mine up to be successful when they get into that classroom with Angie is going to be huge. So I'm making sure when I do have them in those times that we're really focused. The kids in kindergarten love Switch It. It's a game to them. When they come over, they're like, I love this game. You know, and so, and the fact that it changes, I'm learning to let go of the 70% and not, you know, to not have perfection, and to keep going on with that, and to trust, you know, Dr. Thompson and you.
Yay, Brooke.
I'm such a perfectionist. And so, you know, I want to make sure that they're solid, but I trust, I'm going to trust that process. It's something in my journey I didn't start until later in the year. So I'm excited to start my year off with that next year and see how that goes.
And I was going to say, one thing that Angie and I talked about today in the, and she might have that little story to tell, because she still has some younger students that it's hard for them to feel like they can really give the feedback without a parent sitting there to type on. Angie, do you want to share what Ian was doing?
Sure. I had a student who today, his mom said that once he learned how to use the microphone, he could, you know, relay the comments through the microphone. That was a game changer for him.
That's smart.
Then that he had, you know, more input directly instead of constantly having to go through his mom to type them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Brooklyn, she's been typing some, I think.
Yes.
So really catching on of how, you know, how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Karina? You've got an even younger set. So what is life like for you these days?
I find myself going back to a lot of what I did when I worked as an early interventionist and just went for an hour a week and taught parents how to help their kids. And I've been doing a lot more communicating directly with my parents because of my 5 in my group 4 are nonverbal. So a conversation's not happening with them. So I do a lot of email, a lot of trying to teach parents how to integrate those IEP goals into their everyday life. So things like, you know, sorting by color and sorting and matching shapes and objects. Well, that's so that like they can do the dishes and help you empty the dishwasher. So have them help you sort the forks and the spoons and do that, or have them sort the clothes and put the dark stuff together and the light stuff together, and talk about what you're doing and label all of those things and give them that language. So that has definitely been a big part of what I'm doing, is trying to support our parents. And also I had parents who were trying to give 6-7 hours a day. And I'm like, I don't give your kid 7 hours a day. Oh, that's great. Like, I don't sit your kid down and force them to work on nonstop for that long. And I've got 5 to get to in a group. You have 1. So I was really glad when the State Department released their guidelines this week to, you know, reduce that time down to 20 to 60 minutes for the pre-K age group. And I've been telling our parents constantly, you know, if it's not working, don't feel like you have to do it. Just know that we've got 12 more years. And as much as, you know, learning those basic skills is fundamental, all of our kids are going to come back next year having missed these 90 days of school, and we're going to help them figure it out.
So Karina, can you talk a little bit from a parent perspective about Kelsey's engagement, especially in relationship to some of the activities that we've been trying out that we know are from Reading Simplified?
Kelsey loves Dr. Thompson's group, and it's one of the few things all day that I don't typically have to battle her for. She insisted on having a magnet board just like Dr. Thompson, because she has to be like that to do switch it on. And she really, it's nice. And I feel like I'm learning too from Dr. Thompson, because I mean, I don't teach reading. I teach the pre-language skills and all of those things, and to learn to love books, but I don't really teach reading on a day-to-day basis. So for me, it's been helpful as a parent to kind of have some support. And I think it's really helped with some of the reversals and things that we were seeing with that. And then also the articulation in her speech, because we have speech services too. So it's kind of helping a lot of the different areas that like I'm sitting there racking my brain of how to help. But with that, you know, 30 minutes in the morning, she really gets engaged in it, and she loves to listen to the books, and I'm totally teaching her the microphone trick.
Yeah, I'm doing that too.
And she really does. And like I said, I mean, Tara was right across the hall, so she'd run into the classroom, into Tara's room every morning. And so now that kind of gives her a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, let me move over to a Switch It example, since y'all brought that up. So if you're not familiar with the Reading Simplified system, one of the key activities that unlocks reading for our kids, we call Switch It. And it's an activity that teaches the letter sound knowledge and also a lot of phonemic awareness skills. That's the perception of those sounds and words. And Dr. Tara is doing that on Facebook Live to a host of people. How many did you say?
We have 120 members now. And so we're averaging like 80 views. So lots of people are watching it, even if they're not with us in real time.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to bring up example from her Facebook Live, which is in her Facebook group, so people can do it either live, and some people are, and parents are typing in their responses, and then other people are maybe watching it later. So check out how this reading coach in South Carolina is adjusting to teaching over 100 kids all at this, or within one 24-hour period.
As you build it, you make the sound as you pull it down. Some of you might have just made the word black like this. Hey there, Sydney. And maybe Harper too. You might have made black, and it might look like this. Now let's check. Let's check ourselves. And parents, this is where this comes in handy to say, oh, you hear lots of the sounds. Good job, but you're missing one. See if you can slow yourself down and make sure when you say it slowly that you have every sound represented. Can't hold that one. Start again, though. Oh, I see it. I hear it. Black. Black. Excellent. Let's switch black to clap. We might say a sudden sound.
So that was a little snippet of Switch It in real life. Could you see how she was teaching letter sounds and then phonemic segmentation? So that's, and phonemic manipulation, which is a higher advanced skill for phonemic awareness. And we're finding out from more recent research and theory that that's what's really making the difference for our readers. So do any of you want to talk about how that activity is helping your students? Or
Angie, you have some good experience in some of the things that your parents have shared with you. Do you want to talk about that?
Right, sure. So two parents that I talked to actually today, they said, well, our kids love Switch It, and they want to play it as a game, like a family game. They want to play Switch It. One parent was really sharing how she's appreciating what Dr. Thompson's doing so that she can see how to help her child whenever her child is trying to make sounds, whether it's in reading, writing. So it's kind of like what Karina was mentioning of, it's almost training parents to kind of see the reason behind what we do and why we do Switch It and the other things. And so they've been using it to help their child in some other areas.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's not common right now for parents, for many parents, to be able to be as connected with what their kids are doing. But if your parents are willing to be there for the live or the video, then it's a great reinforcement. You get a second teacher, more bang for your buck, right? Because they're going to be reading with their kids, and now that they have that more mindset about hearing the sounds and words, that'll probably help them with how they not only do activities like Switch, but also with their reading and their writing, as you said.
And some of the feedback parents have given is that it gives them a little release of stress. They don't feel so pressured to do things the right way. They feel like, oh, I heard and saw that lesson, and now I feel confident, and I'm a reinforcer. I'm not the teacher, but I know how to help and support now. It really, I think it gives them a sense of, ooh, I can breathe.
Yeah.
Well, and I think reading, like we've said, is so important. And you do want your kid as a parent to get that good quality reading instruction. And, you know, like I said, even as a teacher, I was struggling with, am I doing this right? Am I giving her the foundation she needs? So by having that involvement with Dr. Thompson, I know she's getting some of those good foundational skills that she's going to need as she moves from 2nd to 3rd grade, and reading to learn becomes more expected instead of learning to read.
Right. And we're really using your pathway, Marnie, because it's so nice, you know, going through the 12 steps. And I keep trying to explain, I give little tidbits of information to the teachers and to the parents that we can go through this step and we can cover from the most basic to the more advanced in a matter of 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so, and of course, we can slow it down, and the teachers, we talk individually how we can do small group, and you can break out each step to go longer for individual needs. But I think in the life that we're living right now, it's nice to think about this as a 12-week progression, and that we can cycle back around. And then, like Brooke is talking about, and how Angie's talking about, how they sometimes meet with their kids individually or in small groups, they could then tailor some little mini lessons to meet specific needs. Mm-hmm. But it's nice to have this to follow.
Yeah, this streamlined pathway is sort of a one-page scope and sequence, particularly for phonics and decoding, moving on to fluent word recognition. And so I noticed in Dr. Tara's Facebook lives that she spent, like, it sounds like 1 week on the O sound and another week on the E sound, and this week is the A sound. Am I catching that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So step 2 would be starting advanced, what we call advanced phonics, like the long vowels, and she did the O sound and its various spellings, and then she did E sound and its various spellings, and now she's on the A, and it's only been about 3 weeks of doing these activities. And let me show you some ways in which her kids have been doing that. We already saw this, where she has the key sentence written on sound boxes. I love the sound boxes idea. Each box gets a different sound, or rather spelling. So in the boat example, it's kind of small down here. You maybe can't see it, but there's 3 sound boxes per boat, right? And Anna agrees with you. It's great to be able to have this type of tool to communicate with our parents. And then up here in the upper right hand, you can see the sorting of the O spellings. And here's one of the happy girls. This is from an A sound day. She's got the key sentence there, and she's got each of her each spelling in a different box. And it's pretty neat too. If I had that many spellings to do, I don't know, and my boxes lined up, I don't think mine would have been that good.
Yeah.
So,
and it's really neat, you know, in this instance, they were using a marker board, and in other instances, when they've downloaded and they do it on paper, even if they sketch out their own sound boxes, it then gives them a tool that they're referring to. And again, Angie shared a story where a student wanted to write the word mole. He was writing a research paper or something, right, Angie? Did you want to talk about that? And
sure. So I think one of the days whenever they did the spelling for the long O, later on he was writing something and he wanted to spell the word mole. And so his mom got out the chart of all the O spellings. And she said, well, which one would you use? And he was able to actually identify, you know, O, consonant, E. And so she was really, I mean, we all had like a celebration that not only, right, there it is. And so he was able to take the concept that he had learned and then practice it into when he needed to write the word. And so this is really huge because this is a tool that kids can access themselves. And so that is really something I'm very excited about. And for next year, I even have goals that maybe some of these charts that we make in class, I could put them to their writing folder so that when kids are writing and wanting to spell, they can then have all of this and some words of the examples to make it really meaningful.
Right. Let's see if I can bring up an example of that. So it's just a graphic organizer that you can have the students use over and over again. And it also helps the teacher. Sometimes I would forget, what's that other spelling of E? You know, now I bring up the key sentence. Oh, he sees many of these each year. It's each. So this would be, you know, this is one way of displaying the sorted activity and the key spellings. And then we've got the key sentence down there, go home to show the boat to Joe. So Tara, will you explain what you've done? You've made Switch an integral part of these Facebook Lives and the read aloud, but also sort it. So how are you folding this in?
So with the sorted, after the read aloud, whatever the focus sentence is, so for our focus sound, I mean, I have pulled words out of the read aloud. And I've put them up. So, you know, Marnie, on your sorted sheet, how you typically have a box to the right and it has the words in it. And so this is my attempt at trying to provide this opportunity. So I have the words up on the board, but I have them covered because I'm also knowing that I have a range of children, and some of them, especially our younger ones, aren't learning to blend as they read. They segment, and we know that when you're reading, we want you to blend your sounds together. That's more effective and efficient. And so I have them covered with Post-it notes, and I unveil, you know, the sound at a time, but I do I prompt them to look through the word first, right? When we get to that focus sound. So if they see OA, then look at your sorting sheet now, which was what our little Ian had used with that whiteboard, and we just had the 5 different spellings across the top. And so which one do you see? So I held that board up. Ah, we know it's going to be this one, right? Okay, let's blend it and read it. When you see that pattern there, make that sound. So they blend the word and read it. And then I cover it back up because I want them to learn to trust and pay attention to their own process. So they know the word, they've identified on their sorting sheet, right, which spelling it's going to be. So it's not about remembering it. They can look at that column to see how to spell it, but they're going to trust and hear and feel the sounds that their mouth makes as they say the word and as they then write it on the board.
I love that.
And the teachers.
And
That's real life right there. That's my screaming first grader.
My children never cause troubles. I don't know what you mean, Brooke.
Yeah.
So he's asking for comprehension. So how are you fitting in any comprehension? Even we are talking a lot about word recognition, and that's essential for our early elementary, especially, or anyone who's behind. But also, you're folding in comprehension regularly with these Facebook Lives, aren't you?
Yes, and it's been, I'm not as nervous this week. I mean, I'm always nervous when you get online, but I think I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with pausing and giving chances. You know, typically to get a big, focused thinking and being able to hear what kids have to say as you read, I typically like to pick at least 4 stopping points, right, through the story. And so just this week, though, I think I've been prompting and saying things to parents like, have them retell you the story when you're done, but I've been asking them questions along the way, trying to pick 4 different points to stop and go, oh, how does he feeling and why would that character feel that way? So we are building in the conversation, the thinking, paying attention to how our readerly responses, but also responses to the text and what they see characters doing and feeling.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with Tara's points, and comprehension is a very complex thing to build, and but through the read alouds, if we not only stop to ask those questions, but also see if they can build the story, like the summary of the story as we go through the story. If you're concerned about that, if it seems like they're not able to do that, then you can have them do it in small chunks and build upon it. What happened so far in this part A of the story? Now part A and B together, and part A, B, and C together, and now by the end. So if they're having trouble with comprehension, that's a way to break the task down and make it more manageable for them. So what experiences are your children having? For those of you who have children right now, is there anything that we haven't covered?
I think the real life connection has been good. Like Brooke talked about in the beginning of having those relationships with our students. I think just knowing that everybody's still there and everybody still cares for you, and, reducing the trauma of this whole experience for our kids, because regardless, our students are going to come back with some kind of scar from this. So having a positive, having a light every day to see that familiar person that makes everything okay. I can't tell you how many times Dr. Thompson has calmed a crazy morning just by being there. And it happens virtually and in our building. So
so some of those benefits that our children and all of us kind of enjoy from the routine of life, the routine of having a teacher that sits us down and does a read aloud and calls us by name. That's what she's doing in this Facebook group, even though she's got over 100 kids. Many of them, I'm seeing her say, hello. And Jennifer's not able to do live. She says, yes, she misses those connections with her kids. So that is hard. It's a privilege that you guys are getting to do this. I wanted to share an example. There's a lot of great feedback going on in this Facebook group, so you can see that it's happening. Tara is communicating with parents, and it says in this Facebook post, together, you and your kids are creating a virtual space through Facebook Live to enjoy reading and learning more about how words work. And she tells them what they're going to do and when the schedule was going to be. And down below, a parent saying, I'm getting so much positive feedback from parents and students. Such authentic engagement. So I think that might have been you, Angie, teacher and parent, but I'm filling multiple hats. And then here again, if you were not seeing sorted earlier, this is an example of the A sound. They came to play with the 8 great trains on the table. That's most of this complex spellings of the A sound. What are the challenges? We've been talking about some successes. What are some of the challenges and the issues, maybe things that you're thinking about changing? Anybody?
Well, even the question, like one of our parents has chimed in and asked a question. We're trying so hard. Be Strong is asking this. We're trying so hard to correct punctuation and comprehension. And so, Marnie, do you want to chime in on that? I would say that's a challenge right now. I mean, typically that's our strength, and having conversations around text, and it's the rich talk that you have and the engagement. And so I would say that's a bit of a struggle. So is there something that you can chime in with that?
About the engagement, or back to something is
like the punctuation, comprehension, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, for punctuation, I just learned this from Jennifer Nowicki, one of our leaders in the Reading Simplified Academy, and she has her students tip their laptops down and show their dry erase board so she can see them writing. So that we dictate, typically in Reading Simplified, we will dictate a sentence that's tied to the phonics sound that we're working on. Like my student today, I gave him, they make cake. And so he was saying the sounds as he was writing it, and I could see if he wasn't capitalizing the first letter and putting the punctuation. So my favorite thing with that is that after we've taught it and then we've taught it and we've reminded them, then I try to be more open-ended, like, I think there's something missing. So I try to get less and less direct about, don't forget your period, but I'm trying to say, or have you remembered all the things that you're supposed to do to a sentence?
Well, I'm wondering if B is talking about noticing that the children may not be noticing punctuation, so to speak.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So personally, I would say that would not be my priority during this stage, unless you have, that's a particular issue with your kids for some reason, maybe with their reading, and you were really concerned about it. But generally, I would say that would be lower on my priority list, given as you pointed out earlier, the constraints of this kind of dynamic. But usually if you're talking about ignoring punctuation, it's going to be an issue of how they're reading, right? So if they're not fluent, if they're not fluent, then my favorite thing is just to point out that you're not sounding like you sound when you talk. This is how I would read it. Hey, stop, Sam. Don't run into the car, and that's how I would read it, because there's that exclamation point and I'm excited. This is nerve-wracking. So that's how I would do it. So there's a little teacher modeling, a little maybe think aloud, and then we ask the student to do it. So we give a little advice, model, and then ask them to do it. And then we kind of cycle back through that routine as much as needed. Also recorded books. Books read online that they can just read over and over again can give them a better ear for that type of pattern. This is really interesting from Sarah Jean. It's too big, so I'm not going to put it up on the screen. I was just wondering how you might assess their progress in terms of phoneme grapheme recognition while you're online. It might not be something you've come across yet. Would you do one-on-one assessment eventually over video conferencing? So there's a lot of possibilities there. What do you guys think?
So that's where I'm headed, because just like in the classroom, we use our data to form our instruction. And so we started teaching to the whole group, and now I'm ready to move into smaller groups and meeting kids' needs one-on-one. And so that is where I'm headed next week. I'm going to continue my Facebook Live and Zooms in the morning and the afternoon. But midday, I'm going to be conferencing with children one-on-one to check in with where they're at. Because like you said, I'm matching books to readers through different programs that they're allowed for teachers to have access to. And I want to make sure that I'm still matching them to appropriate books. Just so like anything else, math. Otherwise, I want a quick assessment. And like you said, Marnie, like I was planning the same thing on making it less about looking at their face and more about putting it down and watching them do some of those switch it activities and reading, so that I can gauge where they are in the process and what they're thinking, so that I can go back and form what I'm going to do in whole group. And what I'm going to do, and I'm even thinking the next week, we'll do some Zoom small groups. Because we'll still have our Zoom times that they get to see everybody and we share and we community build. But I think parents are starting to realize too that as teachers, we're not expecting them, like Karina said, to be at home for 7 hours a day. It's not feasible. And so I told your parents, if your child hits it twice a day with me, let it go. Let them go outside and play and do, because there's so much, like Karina said, to be learned just in living and riding bikes and cooking and all of those things too. So what I love about Reading Simplified and getting focused with the Switch It and my guided reading that I'm now moving to do individually next week is it is going to give me that opportunity to do some quick assessing and check in, because I know I left my kids in a great position. So I'm eager to see what they've carried back and to evaluate myself and what they're still doing at home, to know if I was effective in the classroom as well. You know, it's not all about them and their parents and what's happening at home. What have I done in the months that I've had them that's really stuck, that I can use to help me grow as a teacher next year too?
Mm-hmm. I love that. Are there any other questions, you guys, from all over the world for this awesome group of teachers? And they've got a strong parental community, it sounds like. Pretty high levels of engagement.
Yeah.
We're not hearing that in a lot of places. So you're doing some nice things. Angie and Brooke, you were talking about, you know, over a majority of your people being able to show up. And Tara's got a Facebook Live of over 100 people that are coming in and out of that video, sometimes live and then sometimes later. And you can see the comments of parents helping their kids interact. So that is pretty awesome. And then the other thing that I really like about your story is that you guys, first of all, you're working together, you're highlighting and encouraging one another. You're also simultaneously actually learning a new reading approach, which is pretty unusual. And you are gradually adding new things, like Brooke saying she's going to move to one-on-one, and then that will maybe lead to small groups. So you didn't do that in week 1, and that's fine. But you're rolling different things out. And I also like how Brooke said she started with doing everything in the kitchen sink, and that was overwhelming. And so now you're reining it in, right? So
yes, much more manageable.
Have you guys started to think about, as a community or as the school, about the next school year?
From my perspective as a special education teacher that doesn't get to do a lot of interaction online with my kids, I'm going to probably create some go bags to take home that will have things like Play-Doh and kid scissors and stuff like that. I know most of my parents would have access, but I feel bad saying, okay, well, buy me all these supplies for school and get yourself a set for home too. So I'm kind of going to rethink my supply list and saying, you know, have these things at home, send these things to school, because I feel like a lot of what we do is very hands-on. And so I think that what I'm going to try to do is do a lot more creating and sending reusable materials home, so that, you know, if a kid goes out for surgery or we're out for a prolonged period of time because, you know, they get the flu, but 2 days later they feel fine, but the doctor says they can't come back for a week, they have some resources to pull on and just start that family training engagement from day 0, so that, you know, it doesn't feel so foreign if we end up in this spot we are again, you know, for any reason. I mean, I think about, we've had schools run over by tornadoes, and like anything could happen. We could be back here. And, you know, and that's what I feel like is, I haven't done a very good job helping my parents help their kids at home. And I want to figure out a way to help continue that, because it's only going to make it better once they, you know, as they grow.
And, you know, heading back to school too. I mean, Angie and Brooke and lots of the other teachers that are at Chapin that are part of the Reading Simplified now. We have almost like 40 people signed up, right? We're all brainstorming already about what might this look like? How might we roll this out? You know, these 3 simple activities. How can we build it into our balanced learning structures and that kind of thing? And so the wheels are turning, right, Liz? I know you're out there. Anna, I see you there too. So, and there's not a right or wrong way to do it. And I think that's a beautiful thing that Marnie's activities and her scope and sequence, that it just provides a foundation that is just rich in kids tuning into their own process and really learning at a deep level about how sounds and work, you know, the letter sound relationships. Michelle Thorette, who's also on with us, is a coach out in, yay, Liz says yes. She's a coach at another school in our district, and she and I have been working together this year, and she's tried some things out with her teachers, and she does it a different way, but it's still the premise of what Marnie is laying out for us. And so I think that's the beautiful thing, is that we can make it work and our children are successful. There's Debbie. Hey, Debbie. Yeah, it is.
Go back, Debbie. Yeah, if there's a silver lining from all this, all these trying times and emergencies that we're undergoing, and the stress that you've been under, and all of you who are watching have been under, and trying to learn to do an entirely new profession, basically, overnight. Maybe it's that, like Karina was saying, that we are going to probably build, and we are building, better connections with our parents. Even maybe those that we're reaching the least right now, we might be reaching them more than we were, say, in February. And maybe we're going to be a better team moving forward. That's one possibility. So maybe the curriculum doesn't get covered, but if we're showing the teachers, the parents rather, what it is that will help their students develop, and in this case, particularly reading, then that's huge. Because
our teachers, it's given them a chance. It's given them a chance to breathe a little bit. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, teachers are working hard all day, but I think this opportunity, if there is a silver lining, like you're saying, it's our teachers are involved. I mean, they're logged in doing professional development during the day, and now they feel like I can carve out time in my day where I haven't been on my feet teaching for 9 hours already, or been at school for 10 and going home and trying it at night. So they're finding time to weave it in during the day here and there, which I think is a gift for them. And especially once they learn all of these things that you've laid out in the academy, Marnie, I mean, it just is fast, accelerated progress for kids.
Thank you. I love that. That's the goal. Well, if you're a teacher watching and you want some resources for yourself for continuing your learning, or maybe for parents or teachers, I've got a page that I've shared with some of you before, but if you haven't checked this out, I encourage you to check it out, and we're going to be adding to it in the coming weeks. Just maybe a video for parents just to help them know how to teach their kid how to read words, or maybe a video for you to use Zoom and how do I pull up a PDF, and games for students. I used today with one of my students, I used a game at wordwall.net, and I wasn't very well prepared for the lesson, but I found it just in like 30 seconds while he was doing some jumping jacks. So that's there on that link. So make sure you check it out. Would you like future complimentary trainings like this here at Reading Simplified? Then make sure you ring the bell here at YouTube to become a subscriber so that you learn more of our ways of streamlining instruction and accelerating students' reading achievement. And you can also find us on Facebook at Reading Simplified, usually on Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live with other complimentary trainings, and we give away some freebies for teachers and parents. So I hope to see you here again next time on YouTube or even on Facebook. Take care.